This episode of Rookie Hunter is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation. Adventures in sheep country can change your life, and as residents of BC, we're very fortunate to have 3 different species of sheep in our province. After attending the Wild Sheep Foundation's annual convention, Sheep Show, in Reno, Nevada, we got to see what conservation looks like firsthand. The Wild Sheep Foundation's ability to raise and put millions of dollars on the ground each year to keep these majestic animals on the mountaintops worldwide is unmatched. The Wild Sheep family is a diverse group of people from all walks of life, and membership is open to anyone. Whether you're a seasoned pro, it's your first time on the mountain, or you just like to see sheep on the hillside, you can sign up and join today. Kelly and I are lifetime members, but you can become an annual member for just $45. You can also become a member of the Less Than One Club, which is the only club you want to get kicked out of. If you've never taken a North American or international ram, you can join us in the Less Than One Club for an extra $25. Plus, Less Than One Club membership also includes entry into a draw for 3 separate Doll sheep hunts, which will be given away at Sheep Show in 2019. For more information on the Wild Sheep Foundation and to become a member, head over to wildsheepfoundation.org. Hey guys, welcome to episode 65 of Rookie Hunter. We're back in the studio for this one, and we're going to be talking about dehydrated meal prep. So some of our longtime listeners know I do all of my own meals from home using a food dehydrator when getting ready to go into the backcountry. And now is a good time to be preparing some of these meals and starting to think about what you might want to bring with you as we approach the backpacking season. September, October, November are coming up really quick here. A lot of folks think that there's a bit of a barrier to get into dehydrating your own meals, but hopefully you guys will hear from this episode that it's quite easy to do, and you can experiment and make some great stuff from home. So I hope you guys get a lot out of this one. Please do check out our sponsors, North Arm Knives, our longtime sponsor, and consider becoming a member of the Wild Sheep Foundation. We're very excited to have both of these excellent sponsors on board with us. Head over to their websites, or you can find them from our website, which is therookieHunter.com. You can also support the show and look pretty badass at the same time by purchasing some of our merch. We've got t-shirts up on the website for sale. That money helps us keep this thing running, so we do appreciate it, and we want to see you guys wearing them. So make sure you tag yourself on Instagram. If you're out in the backcountry rocking a Rookie Hunter tee, let us know. We'd love to see it. And I haven't asked this in a while, but please go to iTunes or whatever app you're using and leave us a rating or review. That certainly helps us out and makes us more visible so more folks find this show. Well, let's get into this one. Sit back, relax, crack a cold beer, and enjoy episode 65 of Rookie Hunter. You got yours handy?
There we go.
Well, Kelly, what's on tap?
Phillips Electric Unicorn White IPA.
Nice.
Unconventional since 2001.
Perfect.
Pretty intense label, eh?
It is. Totally.
Space horse on the front.
Yeah, it looks like an album cover from 70s.
Yeah.
The last podcast, we were saying how we've managed to escape the fires, and it had been a pretty good season so far.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look out the window right now, which I've got drapes on, but earlier you can't even see the mountains out the windows here.
And I think it was the day after you released the podcast, or very close, and the lightning storm ripped through town.
Yeah.
And the track that the storm went just set multiple fires. I think there was like up to 11 different fires just in the Cologne area.
One main one that was sort of caused some evacuations and stuff like that. I think everybody's back in there now.
Yeah, I don't think any structures were lost, so that's good news.
Yeah, and then otherwise there's sort of fires that are less of a concern, I guess. There's 2 in 2 main parks in sort of like the Okanagan, Similkameen area, which, as long as they don't threaten any homes, the one in the south definitely won't. They're going to completely let that one burn because it's in a park. So that's good news for mule deer and
habitat.
Yeah, exactly. And same for the one that's in the other park, but that one's closer to town here. And could become an issue, but it sounds like it's not really doing a whole lot other than creating a whole bunch of smoke. One thing I heard too on the way here on the radio was that there's smoke throughout BC, and some of it's coming from Europe, from all those fires that are happening over there, also in Asia. So we're getting kind of a mix of smoke from all over. So it's not just ours, but nonetheless, it's not all that pleasant. I was just on the coast in Vancouver, and it was nice and cool and clear and and beautiful there. And then you come back here, and it's hot and smoky. But we shouldn't complain because I also found a little graph online, and basically what it shows is 2018 fire season, and we're at about 50,000 hectares so far in BC. Last year at this time, we were at close to 400,000 hectares. So we're actually doing pretty good so far. And the average for this time of year over the past 10 years is around 100,000 hectares. So
last year was brutal in terms of fires.
Totally.
By this time.
Yeah. So I guess that puts it into perspective. It makes you feel a little bit better about it. It could be worse. It could still get worse. It should, knock wood that it doesn't. But so far, so good. And we had a pretty nice start to the summer. So hopefully this stuff kind of clears up and we get rid of the smoke. So we're talking about food today, Kelly. We'll do some emails first, though.
Yeah.
You got some handy?
We've got a few. Yeah. So we've got an email from Alex, who looks like he's from the Lower Mainland. He says, big fan of the show. On your last episode, you discussed getting involved directly with conservation efforts directly, and it sounded like you wanted to know more about what was going on and how you can get involved. So it sounds like him and some other members from BHA, BCWF and the Wild Sheep Society of BC are getting together. Cool. And they're trying to provide folks with info packs and like how do you contact your MLA and all that stuff. But it seems like it's all being based out of the Region 2 BHA, which is down in Vancouver.
Cool.
And he's basically saying, you know, if anybody wants to come down, Region 2 Pint Night is kind of the place to go to get this information.
Cool.
And they're also going to be screening a Last Stand, the Vanishing Caribou Rainforest on Thursday, the 26th of July.
Oh, right on. Sweet. Well, keep in touch with all the stuff that's going on, and we'll be happy to let people know what's up. And if it gets a lot of traction, we'll definitely get involved. So
definitely.
Who's next?
Yeah, I mean, any coalitions like that, I think it's good to reach across the table,
for sure.
Right?
Yeah, and again, I think as long as everybody's on the same page and we're going after the same issues, one of the things you can run into with too many groups, as we talked about on the last one, is a whole bunch of guys sort of spread out all over the place. So I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, is sort of make something a bit more condensed, pull guys from different groups together and guys who support different groups. So right on.
Yeah. We've got an email from Pete from Kamloops. Basically, he's just saying that he loves listening to the podcast, and he's kind of gone through a similar journey in terms of gear, but also just, you know, he's kind of laughing at some of the things we've gone through.
Nice.
He says the struggle is real, which, you know, it is for sure. He says he'd been hunting for about 3 years now with mixed success. It's been a challenge for him. And he's also having some troubles with, you know, hunting partners and just misaligned schedules and stuff, which we're also familiar with as well. So we've kind of dove a little more into the solo hunt side of things, which is a whole other animal, and it's a mental game too.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So, yeah, it's good to kind of do a little bit of that. And, yeah, it sounds like he's getting skunked on the LEH. But his buddy got a moose draw. So They'll be, not same area as us, but same species. Cool. So good luck to them.
Yeah, no worries, man. I feel your pain. I've been skunked every year.
Yeah.
Except for the moose, which was a group hunt, but hey.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally depends where you're applying to, right?
Yeah.
Like some stuff's pretty low chance, but
which is a good majority of what I apply for around here. So
we've got an email from Henry, and it looks like he's a U.S. citizen currently living in Western Australia.
Nice.
So tell us how much he enjoys the podcast and appreciates the conservation and addressing the issues as we face as modern hunters. But here's a question for you. He's a U.S. citizen living in Western Australia.
Okay.
As part of my concession to my Australian wife for moving down under, I get to spend 3 weeks or a month every year in the US, either deer hunting or at home at my home camp in Arkansas. But he's already done this. So he's looking at BC or the Yukon for 2020.
Oh, wow.
So a couple years worth of planning. And it sounds like the Instagram post, the one where you're in the Kootenays there.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Idaho Peak?
Yeah.
So, that's kind of inspired him to come up to BC, and he wants to check things out. So
cool.
I don't know. I mean, we've actually had somebody else from Australia ask us how they could come here and hunt.
Right.
Shorter answer is you kind of need a guide.
Yeah.
And that
doesn't matter where you're from.
And that involves some cash. So
definitely does. Yeah.
If he's prepared for that, I don't think there's, maybe a year's notice is probably good for some of these wait lists, depending on what he wants to hunt. But
it sounds like he's 2 years out from doing this. So
yeah, so he should be good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you kind of, you need to get into the permit to a company and all that kind of stuff, and you need to have a family here, and it gets a little more complicated. So I don't know how he is in that situation.
Right.
But.
Yeah, and I guess my advice to him would probably be look up north, way up north. Might be your best bet.
Yep.
Do a fly-in or a horse guided trip or whatever it might be. There's lots of opportunities up there and lots of guys that'll be able to take you out.
Definitely.
Lots of critters.
Definitely. We've got an email from David, Ontario new hunter, BC guy at heart. Just recently discovered the podcast. He's 36 years old, got into hunting 2 years ago. So he's learning and figuring things out. Listening to Steve Ranella, Green Tree, Haynes, Bowman, reading some Aldo Leopold, which I've been meaning to do. I actually bought an audiobook of his.
Nice.
The Almanac. I can't remember the full name, but looking forward to reading that one. So he says, have traveled and ventured out into the outdoors for some time now, but hunting was something I didn't really get into until later in life. No hunters in my family, no hunters as friends, so it's been a steep learning curve. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Love the podcast. It's nice to hear people going through the same thing. So he's based out of Toronto. So he just says, great hearing about, places and hunting from BC, and he's a mountain biker, so he travels out here. He's got quite a bit of stuff on this email here, but overall, I think he's just acknowledging that, getting into hunting is a slow process.
Yeah.
It's a steep learning curve. Seems like he's enjoying the show, and just good luck to him. Just keep trucking.
Yeah.
It seems to get easier every season, and sometimes you get skunked even if it's your 30th season. So don't put too much pressure on yourself.
No, man.
Just have fun out there.
Yeah, you got skunked last year.
I did.
Yep.
And then I saw the deer I was supposed to shoot 2 weeks after, or not even 2 weeks after the season closed.
I think that happened to you twice.
It did. Yeah.
Bastards.
Buggers.
That's
one more.
Okay.
We've got Amy from the Vancouver Island. So she's trying to get into hunting. I think she was looking for, I know little to nothing about hunting, and it sounds like she was hunting with somebody that's no longer there. She's in the middle of doing her core. And once she finishes that, ultimately, she's trying to learn hunting in a dude's world, is what she's saying.
Right.
She's also in somewhat of an interesting territory because Vancouver Island's very, I think it can be a challenging place to hunt. It's very thick.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, there's some pretty gnarly mountains there too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, we had responded to her a while back, just reaching out to, asking her to reach out to fish and game clubs and stuff like that. I think that's usually the best place to start.
It is hard. She's not the first female to reach out to us with the same question. I think somebody from, I can't remember what part of the world they were from, but was having the same issues. And all I can say is we found out through doing the podcast that we're not the only ones starting hunting later in life. We thought we were probably one of a kind of thing. So there's probably more women with the same issue. And I think it's just reaching out to different groups and trying to, find them.
Yeah.
And all get together and trying to make things happen that way. But I definitely feel for women that are trying to get into hunting, because it's not easy. It's easy for guys to team up with other dudes that want to do the same thing, but for women, it's definitely a challenge, and you might not want to head out to the bush with some random dude. So,
yeah, true. That's the thing. You kind of have to find. I mean, maybe they want to find other women that are into it, but that's again probably fish and game clubs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Archery clubs and all that kind of stuff. I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's intimidating, not just for women. We've spoken about this in the past. It's intimidating for anybody new to the sport to kind of go to fish and game clubs and all that. But, if there's one thing we've learned from the hunting community, it's that they're very open-armed, and they want to, they want the youth and female hunters and new hunters to all, start hunting. It's why those clubs exist. So, I'd go into it with the expectation that those people want to help and that they're going to be open-armed. Right?
100%. Yeah. I don't think we've come across anybody, even like the sort of the, how would you explain it? The burliest of outdoorsmen that looks kind of intimidating has been very helpful to us. Right.
Yeah.
So, it's probably one of the coolest things about the hunting industry that you don't find in other industries, is that everybody's very open to helping and giving advice. So
yeah, exactly.
So anyways, good luck, and let us know how you do and if you find a solution to it. We're also going to have Lisa coming up on the podcast at some point. So we are going to get a female's perspective at some point here. Don't know when, but it will happen eventually. So summertime's tricky. Anything else?
That's all I got for emails.
Okay. So we were going to talk about backpacking meals. Kelly put me up to this one. Are you thinking about doing some of your own stuff this year? Is that?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So maybe do all this work for nothing, you son of a bitch.
No, I'm curious to know what you went through to do this. And also, I don't think I would go 100% do it yourself.
It's hard to go 100%, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if that's a goal for you to do that, then I totally think that's great. For me, it's always a measure, how much time and effort versus, what you want at the end of the day.
Right.
And I feel like with the type of hunting we're doing, it's like once a year that we're going to do that type of trip.
Yeah.
So I don't really worry too much about the health. I'll put myself through crappy food for a couple weeks. But, and the other thing is with, a lot of the packaged foods is I know exactly how many calories were there, which I kind of appreciated, just given it was my first experience with that. But as you get more experience, I think that becomes less and less of an issue, and you're more confident in what you're putting together. Right?
Yeah. We'll talk a bit more about this too as we get into it, but you'll sort of get an idea over time of, less so about calories, but how hungry you're going to be as a result of burning a whole bunch of calories. So you get a pretty good feel for, especially once you've gone out, did I have enough? Should I have brought more? Did I have too much? And you kind of narrow it down and fine tune things.
Yeah.
And it's good to not make this stuff, again, which we'll touch on, and go and trust that everything's going to be good. When you go out there, you want to try some of this stuff beforehand, and go out on even if you're out just for an evening, and you want to cook something up on top of a mountain, which is a fun thing to do, bring some beer along and cook up a nice meal on the mountaintop, and make sure it's going to work. But most of the stuff is pretty easy. There's not a whole lot of risk involved in it.
Yeah. I think for the last trip we did, my main focus was most energy for least weight.
Right.
And I found if that is your number one priority, you that packaged foods type, trying to get the lightest amount. It may not be the best, but you probably get that weight down to the minimum.
So before we get into this, what are some of the pros and cons that you found with the prepackaged ready to go?
Yeah. So I think that was the pro was, absolute minimum weight versus energy ratios, because those foods are kind of made for that. That's why they're on the market. So you're getting massive calories for ideally less amount of weight. So that was kind of my thing. And then obviously the time savings, on the other hand, those meals aren't exactly cheap.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have too many meals that I really disliked, but there were a couple that snuck up on me. Part of that's not testing them beforehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're sitting there and you're eating out of a Mountain House bag, and I don't know if this one was a Mountain House or Alpine Air or whatever, but there's a couple that were just gross, and you do not want to, after you get back after a long day and you have to eat that, it's just, you're hungry enough where it really doesn't matter, but it's not really comforting.
Yeah.
And you need all the comfort you can get in some of those situations.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking over at you and you got like, this big thing of pasta with salmon in there and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, damn, that looks pretty good. So I think from my perspective, and kind of why I think this is a good idea is like I would like to do breakfasts and dinners.
Right.
And kind of learn how to dehydrate that stuff. I might not do like snacks and lunches.
Right.
Well, lunches are pretty easy, but like the snacks piece, I might still buy like your honey stingers.
Yeah, you know what? I might get some of those. Those things are fucking awesome.
Yeah, they're
straight up sugar, but they're awesome.
They're light as a Ritz cracker, and they have like 200 calories in each one.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that was my thought, kind of going into it, and then having seen what you did and what those meals look like, it kind of started changing my, maybe a little effort up front here on those dinners is the way to go.
Yeah, I think so, man, because you mentioned like, you're not concerned about eating healthy out there. Neither am I. I think this is the time to eat a bunch of shit because you're going to burn it all off anyways, but that doesn't mean you can't have good meals. And I think like at the end of the day, you could get this shit beat out of you all day long and you're going to get back to camp and you're starving. And if you can make something that's like as gourmet as, dehydrated meals can be, it just boosts your morale, makes you feel good. And so I think good meals are important. Not that you can't get that from Mountain House or anything else. And I think it's just a matter of trying them out beforehand. But anyways, should we go through some of this stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I guess the first thing you're going to need, if you don't have one already, is obviously a food dehydrator. There's one that we got. It's is called, the brand is Nesco. And it's a 500 watt food dehydrator, and it's only $80, which is pretty cheap. So this thing, it's probably about, I don't know, let's say 14 inches, and it's a circle. And it comes with 4 trays, but you can actually get like an extra 2 trays if you want to get crazy and be dehydrating stuff, like a whole bunch of stuff all at once. And the extra trays, I think, are only $18, but you can get away with the 4 for sure. But anyways, it's just a big circular thing. There's inserts for the trays as well, but basically the trays just have slats to them so the air can kind of circulate and move around in there.
Yeah.
There's also a small circle in the middle of the dehydrator so the warm air can circulate through there. And there's also these inserts you can lay down. So if you're doing sauces or fruit leathers, you just pour it right onto those trays and it kind of does its thing. So pretty straightforward. There's a whole bunch out there. I've had good results with this one, but with anything, when you're purchasing equipment, just look at reviews. You'll get a pretty good idea of what's going to work for you. And
was this an Amazon purchase?
I think it might have been. I can't remember. It was quite a while ago that we got it, most likely. But that's kind of all you need for dehydrating. There's nothing else. So for the prep side of things, you can start with a group of smaller things that are going to come into play later on, if that makes any sense. So you want to start thinking about what you might want to bring with you and what is going to be included in each meal. So what I like to do is start with stuff like fruits and vegetables. And you can get crazy, and this is where time comes in. You can do your own vegetables and shit like that, which becomes a crazy amount of time. But what we did was we went to Costco. You can get frozen organic corn, peas, carrots. You can get a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And it's all pretty good stuff. So that's probably the easiest way to do it. And the quality is still there. So you just take those frozen vegetables, pour them right on the trays, and turn the thing on. That's it. And times can vary. It's just something you have to watch, but I've never really over dehydrated something except for fruit leathers. So oftentimes I'll be doing this like in the evening. I'll just let the thing run all night long. usually when I get up, if it's like hard and dehydrated, it's done. If it still seems to have moisture in it, you can just let it keep going for a little while longer. One thing that would be nice actually on these is to have like a timer, but you can actually buy those things that you can plug into. So if you were leaving for work and you were worried about leaving this thing running for a long time, you can set it for 2 hours and it'll turn it off for you. So you don't really have to, there's no real science to it. It's just when it is dry, it's dry and it's good to go. And when you're doing that, once you've sort of planned what it's going to be, if it's going to be pastas or curry, like rices or something like that, you'll measure it all out, decide how much you want for each meal, put that all together. And again, after you've dehydrated it all, separate it into individual bags. I weighed everything, so I knew that there was an equal amount for each meal, and then set it all aside. Again, this will all sort of like come together in the end here once we start talking about the final food prep that you're doing for dinners.
So like with the fruit and veggies, the frozen ones, is it longer dehydration if it's frozen?
I don't think so. No, you could let them thaw. The thing is with the frozen ones, it's crazy how fast they thaw out, because if you think about like a kernel of corn, it's...
right. Little ones.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the like shortest amount of time you've dehydrated, and what's the longest amount of time? Like what's the bracket? Like 2 hours to 8 hours kind of thing?
Yeah, I'd say sort of, you're probably looking in the neighborhood of like 6 to 8 hours somewhere in there. And again, if you went a little bit too long, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Except if you're doing something like a fruit leather. So that's the only thing to think about. It's the same idea with with fruit. If you're thinking about stuff like strawberries, cherries, anything like that, you can buy them. Again, blueberries, all frozen from Costco. And this is typically what I throw into my oatmeal. So you just grab those frozen ones, throw them right on the trays. Again, you can put different vegetables on each tray. Turn the thing on, leave it for probably 8 hours or whatever it might be, depending on the temperature you choose. And when you get up in the morning, should be pretty close to done.
Sweet.
And again, you can't go too far.
Yeah. So you're dehydrating a lot of the stuff to be added into the bigger meals.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what all this is leading towards. So that's some of the early stuff you can do. I don't think last year I didn't measure it all out right away. I just put it into jars, canning jars. I would left it open for a couple of days just in case there was any moisture still left in there. It would kind of just air itself out, and then put a lid on them after that and set them aside until I was ready to sort of prep the final meals. So yeah, we're spoiled obviously in the Okanagan. We have amazing fruit coming off the trees here. So stuff like apple chips are really easy to do. This takes a bit more time. You just have to cut them into little pieces and throw them on the hydrator. But I don't know, it's, again, pour a glass of wine or crack a beer. It doesn't take that long. You just throw them right on there. But you can also do bananas for apple chips. Just cut them up into little pieces. The thinner you do it, the quicker they're going to dry out. If you want something a little thicker, then just going to have to leave it longer. But you can do any, non-frozen fruits the same way. Just pick what you want, apples, pears, whatever it might be, and toss them on there.
Okay.
Apple chips and banana chips are pretty good snack just on their own.
They are, yeah.
And there's lots of sugar in there, so it's good when you're sort of starting to feel that drop in the middle.
They're also not cheap to buy, like if you want dehydrated apples or bananas, it's just like, I don't know how much they are. I feel like they're like $6 or $8 for a little bag.
Yeah, it's not cheap at all. I really like dried mango. That's something I don't bother to dehydrate on my own because it's just too much time, but that shit is expensive.
What did I buy when we were on our way to the sheep show? I bought some dehydrated fruit. It wasn't good.
I can't remember.
I don't think it was mangoes. I think it was...
oh, right. What was that?
Oh, man.
Papaya or something?
Something like that,
yeah. Wasn't very good.
It wasn't good. Stay away from those.
Yeah. But anyways, any fruit you can think of, you can throw it on there frozen or right off the tree. You can
Except papayas.
Except for papayas, unless you like that shit, but it's gross. So anyways, you've got all that stuff prepped. The first thing you can lead into is getting breakfast ready. And it doesn't really get any easier than breakfast. You just do an oatmeal. That's all I did for each day on there. But if you're just eating the same oatmeal every day, it's kind of a boring thing. So with all those different dried fruits that I did, I just sort of combined them and made different ones, right? So you can do like apple cinnamon. You can do blueberry strawberry. You name it, man. You just throw whatever looks good or sounds good or whatever you're used to eating at home. And I usually will try and, alternate. Like, I don't know, let's say I'll do 8 of them and have 4 different ones so I can alternate and not really get bored of it. If you want to, you can do, 10 different ones depending on how many days you're out there.
Right.
You just don't want to be eating the same thing every day. But this is another one of those things. For the oats, you just get quick oats. They don't take very long. Once you've got all your stuff mixed together, just pour it into your pot with your boner. Your boner. I'm gonna edit that out. Pour it into your pot with the gas burner, and just put enough water in there so it covers it, and bring it to a boil. Stir it a lot because you can burn the shit out of it, which I did a few times. Maybe I'll leave that in there.
Oh man, that's good.
And you want to try this and decide the serving size that you want to do. So it could be anywhere from a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup, depending on how hungry you think you're going to be in the morning.
Yeah.
But just cook it at home. It takes 5 minutes, and just decide what serving size you want to do.
So when we were up sheep hunting / camping, did you did you get the smell from like the breakfast skillet coming out of the Mountain House bag? That I think Garrett and I were both kind of eating the breakfast skillets every morning, and they're not like the greatest, but they do have that like beef, eggs, bacon, onions, potatoes, all that stuff in there. Like were you like, I'm good with my oatmeal, or would you like one of those skillet bags every once in a while, or?
Not really, man, because I'm not somebody who likes a super heavy breakfast.
Yeah.
I find that I know that the breakfast is going to be important because it's going to be quite a while before you stop and have time to, have a snack or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the oatmeal is kind of like, it's a nice in between. I feel pretty full. Mm-hmm. It's something warm if it's cold in the morning. Like, I don't know. I felt that it was perfect and I didn't really want anything else.
Yeah. I think what I might do next time is do alternating days.
Yeah.
So like a breakfast skillet one day and then oatmeal the other day.
Right.
Kind of flip it back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want to do this, but you don't want to dry out the fruit, you can go and buy dried fruit and just do this in 2 minutes, really.
Yeah.
Measure out your oats, throw it in there, throw whatever spices you want in there,
mm-hmm.
and the fruit, and you're set. It takes 5 seconds.
Yep.
And it's pretty good.
Got spices.
Yeah, just cinnamon or whatever. You can throw brown sugar in there. Some people add some powdered milk in there just for some extra calories and fat in that. So it's basically up to you just to create whatever you want. You can't really go too far wrong with it.
Yep.
And then I just do Via coffee.
Yeah, Starbucks.
Yeah, which I don't like Starbucks coffee, but I certainly enjoy the Via instant coffee.
It's pretty good for instant coffee.
Yeah, for sure. They nailed it. So that's pretty much all I do for breakfast.
Cool.
And I'm ready to rock and roll.
Sounds better than what I was bringing on the elk hunt.
What did you bring?
It was
Jesus, the outcome.
It's just oats and peanut butter powder and a bunch of other types of protein powder and all that kind of stuff. You basically throw water in it, shake it all up. It's basically like a protein drink, but with like oats in it, right? So extremely gross.
Good for survival situation if you needed to choke something back. But
in theory, like when you read that on an article, you're like, oh yeah, super lightweight, super fast, lots of energy. It sounds perfect.
Yeah.
But then when you get up in the morning and it's -5 and it's already, you're excited to get out there and hunt. You don't really want to have this big heavy breakfast. And now you're trying to choke back this gross mix of oatmeal and clumpy stuff. It's just, some things just sound better in theory.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nice to have refreshing hot meals once in a while.
Yeah, man. Some people are so hardcore in packing light that they won't do any cooked meals.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it, that's awesome. But if you, Like I can't.
Food's important to me, and you got to be comfortable out there. And that's kind of the thing you look forward to, getting back to camp and having a hot meal. So you can fuck off with all that, I think. I'll take the weight penalty.
Yeah.
So should we move into snacks and shit?
Lunches and snacks.
Let's do it. So I think you've had these before, Kelly. They're the homemade granola bars, or I sent you the recipe at least. I can't take credit for this one. Super easy to make. I've actually already put it up on our website. We have like a news/blog tab that you can click on. I put the link up on there already, and it's to a website called The Minimalist Baker. It's probably some vegan thing, but it doesn't really matter. These things are awesome, and they have a ton of calories in each one. So basically, you can make them. You could make them right now, and you can freeze them. They don't require any cooking or anything. You just have to toast the oats, and then yeah, man, you're pretty much ready to rock and roll. So I'm not going to spend too much time going over what that recipe is, but you can find any homemade granola bar recipe. But check these ones out because they're like a lifesaver. I just have them in my hip belt pocket. I'll usually have one in there. Anytime I'm starting to feel a bit deflated, I'll just break a piece off, and you can feel it instantly. It just gives you a huge boost of energy, and you can follow the recipe, but you can also add whatever else you want in there too, as far as seeds and dried fruit and chocolate chips or whatever you want to do. Pretty much up to you. So in the snacks category, all the dried fruit that you've already done for your breakfasts and stuff like that, this comes in handy because you've got your dried apple. I mentioned that I like to buy the dried mango. It's a bit expensive, but it's just something I really enjoy. Banana chips, all that shit is super easy to do. And then you look like you're about to say something over there.
No, I'm just thinking.
The other thing you can do is bring cured meats. So if you did like let's say a summer sausage from a kill from the previous season, that's a good time to bring it. You do want, really cured meats. If you brought like more of a moist piece of pepperoni, you risk it spoiling at some point. Mm-hmm. So I did bring I brought deer pepperoni that from our previous season on that one, I think, or one of the hunts anyways. And I just left it out for a couple of days to dry a bit more, so you don't have to worry as much about it spoiling. But any cured meats or cheeses, you're going to have to keep an eye on them. And then if you're looking at cheeses and stuff like that, any hard cheese like a Parmesan or a Gruyere, Asiago, or any aged cheddars, if it looks super dry, it's going to last out there. But if you're doing softer ones, you're going to risk them going bad and not being able to eat them.
Yeah, I love a good block of Parmesan cheese.
Yeah, I brought one and just kind of had a chunk in each day, and eating that with pepperoni or whatever was really good.
If you want an easy option too, Costco again.
Yeah,
the bags of little packaged cheeses.
Oh yeah, you brought some of those along. Those were
and you get a ton of them in a bag, but it's just
those
like
will last
from
forever.
A proportion perspective.
Yeah,
it's like throw one in a bag,
mm-hmm.
and they last a long time because they're each individually vacuum sealed.
Right.
But anyways, same type of cheese, just different packaging.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Exactly. So the other thing you can do for snacks and stuff that I like, and this is someone I kind of turned my nose up at initially. It was something that Ashley had read about or thought of or whatever, is to do wraps with peanut butter. I pack a lot of peanut butter with me just to eat, just like by the spoonful, or to make these wraps with just your basic grocery store wrap, peanut butter, and you can bring cooked bacon into the backcountry. It kind of falls into that cured meat category. Mm-hmm. Again, it won't last forever, so use your discretion and keep an eye on it. If you think things might be going funky, eat them before they go funky, because you're going to have to throw them out at some point. I've never had to, so.
Or if you think of four-legged creatures following you.
Yeah.
But toss the bacon.
Leave it behind. So with these wraps, they have a ton of calories in them, just the wraps alone, never mind adding peanut butter and bacon to them, but you just slather it on there, throw the bacon in there, wrap that thing up, and It takes 5 seconds to put it all together when you're on the trail, and it's delicious. And again, it gives you a huge boost of energy, and you feel pretty full. And then you can bring stuff like dates and peanut butter. Like, again, you already have that peanut butter. You just dip some dates and some peanut butter, and fuck, man, there's a lot of energy in just something like that. And again, it's super easy.
Lots of fiber.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It keeps you regular out there.
Be careful. Well, actually, that's a serious problem sometimes, especially if you're eating too much Mountain House or like those packaged meals, which maybe that's another benefit to this too. Doing it yourself, you're eating stuff that's a bit more healthy, right? So it's not as shocking to your system.
Right. Not too far off of what you're used to doing on a regular basis.
Exactly.
And then beyond that, man, it's just stuff that you want to bring. So if you have favorite chocolate bars or those honey stingers, or I don't know if you had any favorites from that. I usually just bring like just plain old dark chocolate.
Yep. Score chocolate bars are my thing.
You gave me one of those one day when I was kind of...
Oh, man. Yeah, because I had some extras filled up. I brought too much food, apparently. But those Score bars they're my favorite. And the Pro Bar superfoods that you can get at Mac or any store, really. They're pretty good. And there's like 350 calories in one of those.
Right. I always bring... I don't eat them that often, but I always throw a few Cliff Bars in my pack. Like I usually have like a little emergency pack that has an extra lighter and all that kind of stuff in there. I like to throw a few of those. I usually end up eating them anyways when we're out there.
Yeah.
There's certain days when you just need that extra boost. So, but yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Sometimes I'll bring a couple of pre-made sandwiches for the first couple days. Hopefully, if it's a long drive like we did up north, you have a cooler or some way to keep them cool enough. And for the first 2 days or even just the first day, to have a sandwich on the trail is kind of nice as you ease into disappearing into the wilderness. But you don't want to do that for every day, obviously, because they're going to go bad and the bread's going to get stale and shitty. It's just kind of a nice thing to have for the first day out there. That's pretty much it.
Cool. Did we do dinner?
We're heading there next, Kelly.
Oh, okay. Actually, I gotta say, the pepperoni and cheese.
Yeah,
I think when somebody pulls out some pepperoni and cheese midday, that is like
the best.
That's a life changer.
Yeah,
that's what I look forward to most sometimes.
Yeah, man.
And on the elk hunt, actually, you had brought a bunch of buns that were made from a local bakery.
Yeah.
And, like high quality, I don't know if it was like prosciutto or something like that. And then you've got sharp cheese in there.
Yeah.
Like those, like dinner is obviously amazing. Especially when you have a good hot meal, breakfast, great. But sometimes those midday sandwiches are just as good.
Yeah, exactly. Those are exactly the sandwiches I'm talking about, because those are super good, man.
Yeah.
But again, they won't stay for forever, so you have to...
anything that keeps you out there a little longer, right?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I had brought some of those on the elk hunt, and guys who listened to that whole journey will know that we missed the trailhead the first day and had to hike up the river. And I was just exhausted, and having that sandwich was pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's the little things in life when you're way out in the middle of nowhere that make a huge difference. Anyway, shall we get into dinners?
Yep.
These will typically be the most amount of work, but as we talked about in the beginning, it's kind of like the most important meal, and I think it deserves the right amount of time if you don't want to go down the pre-made route, because it's just so much more satisfying when you're out there. So pastas are going to be the easiest things to do, and they're probably my favorites when I'm out there. All you need to do is buy like powdered Alfredo sauces or whatever kind of sauce you want to do from a grocery store, which again, that's not something I would generally eat, but it's super lightweight. And just getting grocery store, and the thing to pay pasta from the grocery store, get a spaghetti that will cook quickly. You'll notice as you look at all the various packaging that the cooking times vary quite a bit. You want to get the ones that go quicker so you're not burning all your stove gas trying to cook pasta.
Right. So are you saying like spaghettini?
Yeah, basically whatever you find that's going to cook the fastest, just get that one and do it for every day. Unless you want some variation, if you want to get like shells or if you want to do like a mac and cheese or something like that, then go for it. It's totally up to you, but just keep in mind the amount of time you're going to have to boil it and how much gas you plan on packing in. Typically, you're going to have enough gas anyways, but just want to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I did notice when we were out was you were definitely burning more fuel.
Yeah.
Especially on the pasta days. It wasn't an issue. Like, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
It's just, with some of those Mountain House or whatever, all you're doing is boiling water and you're hucking it in a bag and letting it sit. Yeah. Whereas with this, you're actually, cooking your pasta or rice or whatever the case. So I think you do use some fuel, but, I don't think you were in a position where you're running out.
No, I was good. I had more than enough as it turned out. So it was okay. But yeah, it does take a bit more prep time. But the prep time that you skip with like the Mountain House ones, basically it's cooking inside of the bag, whereas you actually have to keep this thing boiling and add everything to it. So with the pastas, you don't want to obviously just have just a sauce and pasta. You're not really going to get enough calories. You might just get it from the pasta, but it's not that exciting. So you can try drying stuff out like chives. Those will dry in probably a few hours on the dehydrator. And then you can add some of your dried vegetables that you've already done. So if you want to just throw corn or if you want to do mushrooms or you name it, whatever sounds good, portion that stuff out and throw it in with your pasta, like in a bag, cook it all up. Well, you cook the pasta first. I leave it a bit moist. I don't drain out all the water and then add in the powder mix after, kind of stir all that stuff up together. And it's pretty damn good. You can go a step further if you want some protein. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this again. It depends what we're doing, but you can bring along canned chicken or salmon, and holy shit, is it good. But it's heavy and it's bulky. That's the only problem with it.
And it's bait.
So the thing you want to keep in mind is what I would do with the cans after is put them in the fire so you burn out all that scent and kind of sanitize the whole thing so that you're not having a dirty, salmon can in your backpack because you're just asking for it. Food in general is obviously going to, critters are going to smell that stuff, but it seems like fish is going to really get a bear excited out there. So you may or may not want to do it, but man, it makes for like a pretty amazing meal. You can try dehydrating meat. It's not impossible, but the one drawback that most guys find, if you try and do something like beef, guys have found that it's like chewing on rocks still, even after you've, cooked it with the pasta. It doesn't quite suck up enough moisture or it just takes too long. You could do, something like smoked salmon. That would be easier to bring along. You could throw that stuff in there. Again, you just have to get a bit creative and decide how much
kokanee,
yeah, whatever it might be. Just make sure you seal it up really good. You could probably vacuum seal that kind of stuff if you wanted to, if you're going to bring smoked fish with you and throw that in there. And much as I hate to say it, you just burn the packaging when you're done with it because you don't want to be packing all that stuff around with you. So pasta, like I said, is pretty easy to make. The other thing you can do is buy homemade pasta sauces, or you can make homemade pasta sauce or buy a sauce that you like and just pour that onto your dehydrator trays and dry it out. What you might want to do is if it's like a chunkier pasta sauce, you can do like a hand blender or just a blender and blend it for a while and smooth it out a little bit so the consistency is pretty equal, and you just pour it onto the tray, leave it. These sauces will take quite a bit longer than the other stuff will. These might take up to 10 hours. I should time all this stuff, but again, you sort of just know when it's done. Some of the sauces will turn into like they'll become like a dryer thing that you can break up with your hands into like a powder almost. Some things will jump into like rice curries and stuff next. But they almost become like a fruit leather consistency that you can cut into portions and just roll up and throw into the bag with the rice. So it varies, but some of the sauces just won't go super dry. They'll just become like that fruit leather consistency, which is kind of easier to deal with anyways. But that's kind of it for the pasta side of things. You really can't go too far wrong with it. Just make sure you pick a pasta that's going to cook quickly so you're not burning all your gas. When you get into stuff like rice, you can buy, I can't remember what it's called, but there is rice that is it will cook faster. But what I did was I got a rice cooker, portioned everything out. Again, you can sort of tell, like if you put it on a plate and just decide how much rice you would eat in a normal meal and just throw some more on there, that's kind of a good enough judgment, but make sure you have enough. And it's not going to kill you to bring a little bit extra. You're better to have a bit more than not enough. But anyways, you cook the rice and then you put it on the dehydrator after you've cooked it. So you're dealing with a dry grain, cooking it, and then drying it out again. It almost seems like it doesn't make sense, but it's going to make the cook time faster when you cook it again. So for something like a rice, you can actually add your sauce, your dehydrated sauce, and all your vegetables and stuff to it as one package. You don't have to separate everything and cook it all together. Just make sure you don't put too much water in there. Usually, much like the oats, if you just have enough water to cover it, and you just keep stirring it and just cook it until it gets to a consistency that you like, everything should be rehydrated by that point, and it should be really good. So it's fairly easy to do. It's just doing the prep ahead of time to cook the rice and dehydrate it, portion it all out, and add whatever kind of sauce you want to do or whatever vegetables. But again, much like the pasta, you can buy or make like a coconut curry sauce or like a red Thai curry. You can get these kinds of things from Costco or a grocery store. And again, just pour them right onto the tray and dry them out. Pretty easy. Not really time consuming at all.
So do you find what was the rice cooking time when you're out in the field versus the pasta?
That's a good question, man. I think what I'll have to do this year when we go out, but it was roughly about the same time.
Oh, okay.
You're probably looking at 8 to 12 minutes, somewhere in that range. Depends if you're dealing with wind and stuff as well. If you set yourself up in a good spot, I'd say within 12 minutes, you've got something ready to rock and roll, which isn't too bad. But if you need ideas, just Google backpack rice curries or whatever you want to do, man. And there's a million of them up there that people will give you ideas for, or just stick with something that you already like, or if you've already made homemade sauces, all you have to do is thaw them out and pour them on there. Less of a DIY method, but you can get sort of like prepackaged udon or laksa, any of those kind of Asian soups, which is an easier way to go about it. Don't do like the Ichiban ones. You can actually go to Asian supermarkets and they have like pretty good ones. And don't look at the ingredients on these because who knows what's in them. Like it's just horrible things that aren't good for you. But there's a ton of calories in these things, and they already come with the dehydrated vegetables and stuff like that. And the sauce and everything you need is already prepackaged, much like a Mountain House would be. But again, you can add all of your the vegetables that you've already dehydrated just to add more to it. I think I only brought one of these with me just as like kind of a backup thing to have if we extended our trip or whatever. But I did eat it next to the river one day and it was pretty damn good. Just make sure you add extra vegetables and stuff like that. Another thing you can bring is eggs, and a lot of people don't realize this, but if you get eggs directly from a farmer that haven't been refrigerated, they'll keep for a long time. So you've been to Europe, Cal, and you've probably went into the grocery stores. They don't refrigerate any of their eggs or anything like that. It's all just right on the shelf. And I don't know exactly how long they'll keep, but they'll keep for like well over a week. unrefrigerated. So, with an udon or a laksa or something like that, if you wanted to bring a couple of eggs to throw into something like that, just to get a bit more protein, it's totally doable. You just have to pack them in a way that they're not going to explode in your backpack. But lots of protein and that and an egg. So we did that a couple of weeks ago. Ashley and I went backpacking and brought some pre-refrigerated eggs, but we were only going out for a couple of nights, so it didn't really matter. I just ate them on the first night, and it's good.
Cool.
But that's kind of as many ideas as I'm willing to give out without boring everybody. But you can do stuff like beef and barley stews if you already have stews made. You don't have to do anything separate. You can just pour the stew right onto a food dehydrator and dry it out. Same with like a mushroom risotto, or borscht is another one you could just pour right onto the thing. So basically you can take this as like a base of the things that are possible and just design your own meals, and it's not that hard.
Yeah. Trial and error.
Pretty much. But you said like trial and error, but I've never actually fucked anything up so far. It's all pretty straightforward, and you can find enough info online. If you're not sure about something, just search it.
Cool.
But you'll know, I guess, if you mess something up. It just won't seem right. But again, we haven't been there, and the meals have been awesome. So
yeah,
make sure you try some of these things out before you go, and make sure there's not going to be any issues, and really consider your portion sizes and adding a bit extra. That's it. I guess the one thing I didn't really get too far into is just going through and separating things into individual bags, which you would do with your mountain house, and sort of plan out each day. So I take a big freezer bag, which is probably what you did, like a Ziploc freezer bag. I have my breakfast in a smaller freezer bag, snacks in another one, and my dinner in another one, and everything's kind of separated again inside that bag. So, if the vegetables are separated from the pasta if they need to be, and so on, so that you're just sort of just quickly whipping things together. And usually the night before, I'll grab my my lunch or my snack bag, pull that out of that day's stuff, and throw it in my pack. So my pack's ready to rock and roll in the morning.
And then all those 8 days of meals or whatever, they're separated in bags, but then they're put in like one dry bag.
Exactly.
So that's like your meal bag.
Yeah.
Squeeze the air out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are bringing heavier stuff, like if you decide to do anything canned, or if there's just certain days that feel heavier, you're probably going to want to eat those ones on the first couple of days, just unless you're, set up a base camp that you're sticking at. It doesn't really matter, because you're just going to hang your shit up in a tree anyways. But if you're going to be moving around quite a bit, you're definitely going to want to free up some weight by eating some of that heavier stuff. But yeah, man, in the end, it's a bit more work, but it's cheaper, and I don't know. I enjoy it. Food's important. It
is. You need comfort out there.
Yeah.
And I think the key is to just try all this stuff, right? Yeah. And then try cooking it with your stove at home and do all that kind of stuff, because you don't want to be experimenting in the woods.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
I'm sure
I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah, man. And obviously I'll point you in the right direction if you're, I'll send you some recipes and stuff like that. But pretty easy. Cool. And good. Those meals were awesome.
Yeah, there's more options than packaged meals. Yeah, there are some good ones. Like most of the pasta ones are pretty hard to mess up. But if you're not testing those meals before you go out, you'll get surprised one day. At one that just tastes absolutely disgusting, and now you got to wolf that down.
Yeah.
So I guess regardless of what you're doing, make sure you eat some meals beforehand, so you know that your stomach can handle it.
Right.
You don't want to be out there and having like who knows what. Like some guys end up constipated, or some guys just get upset stomach and heartburn or whatever. Like you got to get all that stuff out in the open before you go. But it seems like that risk is lower with this method, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So
hopefully, and less waste as far as garbage and stuff goes.
Yeah.
You and Garrett had like probably 3 times as much just packaging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's something
you're packing that around.
Yeah, you are. So
good time.
Yeah. one more consideration.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I hope that is helpful to some folks.
Mm-hmm.
Without actually cooking in front of people, that's probably the best I can do. So
yeah, no, I think it's pretty explanatory.
Yeah. If there's recipes that you guys think we should try, obviously send them over to us. If you have any follow-up questions on any of this stuff, our email address is info@therookihunter.com. Would love to hear what people are eating out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like to hear the bad stuff too.
Yep. And your lunch specials too. Send those over.
Yeah.
I know the bagels with bacon and peanut butter and all that is a pretty big staple, but if you've got other ideas, let us know.
Totally. Cool. Anything else you want to add, Kelly?
I don't know. I just think eating the same thing, regardless of how good it is, day after day after day, and that's kind of where I was going with these bagel sandwiches for lunch.
Right.
It's always nice to throw something into the mix, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So just keep it fresh each day as much as you can anyways. Like obviously there's some sacrifice being out there, and
totally.
You have to do what you have to do, but it's nice to throw in a couple odds and ends once in a while. Yeah. Surprise yourself.
Gives you something to look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
So we'll be back next week with a guest.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm aware, I'm always afraid of jinxing these things, so we won't say who it is. But it should be a good one.
Yeah.
And I think we're recording it on Saturday, so you guys can look forward to that one. I don't know. It'll go up probably midweek.
Yep.
But we'll see you then.
Cheers.
Cheers. This episode of Rookie Hunter was also brought to you by North Arm Knives. North Arm Knives are handcrafted and sold directly through a father and son team right here in British Columbia. Choose from a selection of outdoor knives, kitchen knives, and custom engravings from northarmknives.com. They ship internationally and guarantee all of their work. Kelly and I have put their products to the ultimate test and give them our stamp of approval. Head over to northarmknives.com.